November 4th, I think it's at Antifa Day. Nah, no Antifa Day here, folks. No Antifa here. You wear a mask here, they throw your butt in jail. You don't get to wear a mask and go around and get crazy. Hey, it's a special report, special report, special report. A special edition of GMO Tuesday. We're going to talk about the dead zone today. The dead zone, of course. Special report brought to you by Foothill Feed and Mercantile in the Reno, Nevada area. Ladies and gentlemen, non-GMO organic feeds for your critters. You know, you can't have that pig looking at you with a third eye there, can you? 775-852-0999, ladies and gentlemen, 1330 Geiger Grade on the way to VC there, Virginia City. Of course, next week is the week to be in Virginia City because Virginia City hosts Veterans Day like nobody's business. Boy, I'll tell you what. They are very proud of our veterans. And it's an event. It's one of the greatest veteran events I've ever been to in my life. Virginia City, try to make it every year, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, before we get to the dead zone, let's talk just a little bit about Nestle. They're beating up a little tiny community called Osceola in Michigan. They want to start pumping an additional, or extraction, as they call it. We want to increase our extraction 400 gallons a day, ladies and gentlemen. Are you kidding me? That's over 500,000 gallons a day. They want to do 400 gallons per minute. Increase their extraction of water, 400 gallons per minute. Links are in the description on this issue. I got a feeling we're going to make this a special report and look at this a little more closely. As I was looking at it this morning, it's crazy. Nestle is paying $576 for 3 million or something like that, an obnoxious amount of water to come out of the San Bernardino, Southern California area, regardless of drought conditions. Huh? Your lawn gets to die, but Nestle's gets to bottle the water for nothing. I did a little bit of research. It cost Nestle's about 1.5 cents a bottle. That's what it costs them. And they're getting their water for free. $200 is what they're paying Michigan a year. And now they want to increase it 400 gallons per minute. In addition to what they're doing. I think that's worthy of a special report. Links in the description, folks. Links in the description. You know, back in 1983, Christopher Walken, one of the many characters that he's done, and he really did an excellent job on this guy here. And of course, Anthony Michael Hall made the Johnny Smith character famous on USA, the network there. But the movie Dead Zone was a Stephen King horror story about a guy who would went in a coma, woke up, and would shake your hand and go blank. He'd have a vision. Unfortunately, we're not having visions. We're having reality here with what they call the dead zone now. The Gulf of Mexico is the largest dead zone on the planet. Links are in the description. There's a couple maps on there that you can take a look at this, folks. And this is a man-made kind of issue. What they're calling eutrophication and hypoxia. Now, I've heard of hypoxia. Eutrophication is just a bigger word than that. What this is, what happens, because of man-made, this is a man-made issue here, and you'll understand why the Gulf of Mexico happens to be the largest dead zone on the planet. I mean, let's think about this for a minute. Every place else on the planet has agriculture. But fertilizers, chemicals, the fertilizers, sewage waste, everything And here's my question on this, because all the maps you look at start showing the rivers way up by the Canadian border and how they drain. The Tennessee Water Authority, three rivers coming up there in the Ohio and the Pittsburgh area, and then you have the Missouri River and the Red River and a couple other rivers that run into the Mississippi, and that all runs down into the out of Louisiana, the number 2 behind Alaska. Number 2 fishermen people in the country. I would have thought Florida would have, but Louisiana. There are 479 sites around the globe with hypoxia. And what this is, what happens, the oxygen gets taken out of the water. There's no what they call dissolved oxygen. That's how fish breathe. I mean, let's be real. Even the critters in the water need oxygen. When the dissolved oxygen gets beat up in the water from whatever, things die. The first thing that dies is the critter that eats the plant. Then you get the algae bloom take over. Then the plant dies because there's not enough oxygen for that. And then you get this. Basically, what a dead zone is, think desert for a minute. Think desert. You think Sahara Desert. It's dry sand. Not really a lot of life. There might be something underneath that sand, but there's no life. That's a dead zone is basically an aquatic desert. That would be a good analogy. And my question is, because the dead zone stuff, I knew about. We were hearing about this when I was in high school 40 years ago. Okay, so it's increased over the years, and I really have to wonder, especially because it's blown up bad in the last 35, 40 years, I really have to wonder, and I have to ask this question, and I think you would be remiss not to ask this question. Since that part of the country that feeds into the Mississippi is the agriculture breadbasket of America, as they call it, is all that glyphosate crap running down into the ocean? Are the waterways being depleted of iron, magnesium, potassium, calcium? Think about it. If that's getting taken out of the water, we know the glyphosate moves. We know it stays behind in the dirt. We know it moves around with the water. If that's happening, and we're getting down into the Gulf of Mexico, and we start getting those metal trace elements out of the water, what are all those crustaceans living on? What are the mussels? What are the shoals on the shoals there? What do the clams, the oysters? What do all the shellfish eat? Because you got to remember, shellfish that's the filter. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen, but like what they call a shoal of mussels, it'll be the whole side of a cliff. And as that water splashes up, they suck all the crap out, and they're the filter. They're the filter for the ocean. They got no oxygen, they don't live. Ouch. Coral reefs, again, got to have oxygen. They start dying off. Coral reefs are what protect the coastline. So it's a tough dichotomy when you start talking, how do we fix this? Everybody's going to eat. My personal opinion, and many of you that follow me on this GMO thing, you know that I firmly believe farming was a local thing. It was never meant, we were never meant to have a farm in Kansas growing corn for the entire world. I'm sorry. That's not agriculture. That's monoculture business. That's not supply and demand. That's pecuniary greed. Somebody asked a question the other day of me. If they get glyphosate out of the picture, would they still be able to farm? Well, I'm sorry, but for 1 million and some odd years, as long as man's walked the planet, we were farming. We didn't start chemical farming until about 100 years ago. We didn't start with the chemicals till the 30s and 40s, until we got the Dust Bowl. Think about that. Yeah, we could go back and farm. Whoever asked that stupid question. I don't think it's stupid, but to me it is, because we did it before. We were growing food without chemicals and without genetically modified organisms in the food supply delivering poison to us. You know who don't deliver poison? MDG blogger. Hey, organic for greenlivings.com, ladies and gentlemen. Girl got some good stuff. Check her out. Marla Dawn Gates. She's a little cutie pie too. A non-GMO girl, just like Carrie and Mary's Heirloom Seeds, Paula's Healthy Living, all them girls. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. I like them non-GMO girls, man. Hey, around the globe, 479 sites have been identified with hypoxia. 55 sites, they say, are improving because of ecological things they're doing. 228. There's 228 expedient these are worse. They're getting worse is what I'm trying to say here. I can't read the word I wrote. It was a fancy word. I was going to use fancy language today. Dumb it, Jim. Oh, but there's 288 sites that are also showing algae blooms, damage to the coral reef, species loss, and that's very, very important. When you start losing a species of something in an ecosystem, you have a problem. I don't care if it's a mosquito. When you remove something from an ecosystem, you have to remember everything in the ecosystem, everything that's there right now is there for a reason. It balances itself. When you remove something, for whatever stupid analogy you want to come up with, when you remove something from a system, you have a problem. Remove the oil from the engine system in your car and see what happens. The EPA reporting back in April, there are 8,776 square miles, which is 4 times larger than the estimate a few years ago from 5 years ago. So we have a problem. It's 5 times larger than what their 5-year projection was back in 2012. That was reported in April of this month by the EPA. Again, link in the description, folks. Link in the description. So what causes this? How do we cause this? We've already touched on that a little bit. You have all this stuff running down, and you guys know what I say. What goes in the dirt goes on the table, and it's the same thing, because this stuff is washing down the rivers, washing into the Gulf of Mexico. And remember, now something you might think, oh, well, the fish will just go out a little farther. Well, not all of them can, because mussels, clams, oysters, your other crustaceans, and shellfish, they're bottom ground feeders. They shrimp, crabs, lobsters, they're cleanup animals. They clean up the shoreline. They clean all that up. They don't swim. They crawl around on the bottom of the ocean and eat all the garbage. Clams, mussels, oysters, scallops, they don't swim. They lock onto the wall. And when they call that a shoal, maybe I should have had some pictures so you see, but it's really, I've seen mussel shoals that are really cool because they got that little orange thing in them, man, and you'll see all these little orange stripes among a black wall. It's kind of cool looking, but that's how they live. They attach to the physical ground, and they just open up, and they're a filter system for the ocean. So when you start removing these, you start having an imbalance, and then the imbalance starts going like that, and you start getting algae blooms that suffocate everything out, suck all the oxygen out of the water, so nothing can live in it but the algae. Yeah, you have to remember this. I don't care what anybody says. Everything that is in the ecosystem is there for a reason. And when you remove one item from that ecosystem, you're removing somebody's food, which in turn gives somebody else food. So it's like I'm saying, even the mosquito, bats live on mosquitoes. What happens to the bats? Are they going to, they got to go find a new bug to eat. Them finding they don't have mosquitoes to eat, now they're eating another bug. Are they going to get into that bug's? So that bug gets eliminated. Do you see what goes on there? It isn't really take rocket science to figure it out. But when you start at the shore and the fish have to, because there's no oxygen, think about it. I'm going to put you in a room for just a minute. We take all the oxygen out of the room. You're going to stay in there or you're going to leave the room to go get oxygen. Well, the fish do the same thing, folks. They swim farther out. So what happens when they swim farther out? Well, the guy's got the boat and all the employees on the boat to go fishing got to go farther out. They got to spend more money to go get the shrimp for your shrimp cocktail. So now your shrimp cocktail goes from $2 to $4. For those of you who don't know anything about fishing, well, I think it's made deadliest job thing. It's one of the highest workman's comp rates there are on the planet here in this country. So you have more fuel you're using. You're paying employees more time. You're going farther out into the waters where there's more liability. Waves are bigger. Ocean's deeper. You don't think the insurance company isn't going to tag you on that? Yeah. Think about it for just a minute, folks. You insure your car. If you're driving 3 blocks to work every day, you might get a $40, $35 insurance premium. If you're driving 100 or 50 miles to work every day, your premium is going to be in the $60 range. They're going to charge you more money because you're creating more liability. And in that industry, it's no different. The costs have skyrocketed to get your shrimp for the shrimp cocktail at your fancy restaurant, folks. That's a reality. And, so you have time, you have fuel, you have insurance rates, and seriously, think fishing on a boat is one of the most hazardous employment opportunities you can attain in this country. It's a very high rate. But not only does this dead zone creep into our food supply, it affects the Gulf states, the people down there on the coast in Louisiana and the Mississippi and parts of Texas on the Gulf, because it's dead water, kind of. I mean, it's like there's no fishing, there's no, you have charters, you have boats, you have people that take people out on tours and stuff in the ocean, and if the ocean's dead, think about it for a minute. You have this nice boat, it holds 50 people. You're going to start a little charter service. For years, you've been taking people around this tour to see the seals and the whales and the dolphins come up. You okay? You serve a little lunch on the trip because it's a 3-hour trip. Get a little Gilligan on you here, but it's a little 3-hour trip. So they serve lunch, a little snack, some drinks or whatever, and now all of a sudden, where they've been doing this for the last 20 years. The fish ain't there, so they got to go farther out in the ocean. It's no longer a $20 ride for lunch. Now it becomes $50. Now people on vacation, I didn't budget that much for that. Maybe we got to pass that up. Let's just go over here and get some ice cream and look at the ocean. That's the kind of stuff that happens. So the domino effect of this dead zone is more than just into the fishing company. It starts getting into state and local coffers because revenue isn't being generated like it used to be. And we know when you start generating revenue, there's taxes involved. So it's, I don't want to call it trickle down. I don't want to sound like Uncle Ronnie and say it trickle down, but the reality is this. We have a vast amount of chemical waste coming into the Mississippi, traveling down the Mississippi into the ocean. It just doesn't take a lot of common sense to figure this out, folks. So I don't understand how a judge can sit on a bench and listen to the drivel and allow it. That's what I don't understand. Because when I read some of these court cases, when I read some of the arguments that Monsanto puts up, or Nestle's, or Coke, or any of these companies that want to use these chemicals in our food supply, when I listen to their argument in court, I am so appalled that judges buy this, number one. Let that sink in. Because every time a judge makes a decision that favors Monsanto, that's what's gone on. These decisions don't favor Monsanto because the law is on Monsanto's side. These decisions favor Monsanto because they've greased the wheels and they've used the element of pecuniary greed somewhere along the way to get what they want. This company has done nothing but lie to us for 100+ years about their products. When does it stop? I don't know. But that's a conversation for the GMO day. Dead zones are the biggest, they're human caused. These are, let me back that up. There are natural, what they call, what is that word? Hypoxia. There are natural hypoxia zones around the planet. They are created naturally. By being created naturally, the life that was in that area has adapted. What's going on in the Gulf of Mexico is like overnight stuff. It isn't something that's occurred over a couple hundred years, maybe, that the aquatic life has a chance to adapt and do whatever. But there are some hypoxia spots around the globe that are natural. I'm not quite sure how it would be naturally created where all the oxygen would dissolve. And make no mistake, this is dissolved oxygen. That's in the water. Remember, water is hydrogen and oxygen, H2O. Two molecules or two atoms or whatever of hydrogen and one of oxygen make water. So there's naturally dissolved oxygen in the water, and what's, like I said, what's going on when you look at these maps, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see it's all around the highly densely populated areas of the globe where all these red, yellow spots are that deal with these dead zones. And you'll notice here in the United States, the biggest one on the planet is the Gulf of Mexico. Why? Because everything from that Mississippi River, from the Canadian border down, and guess what? Guess what? Canada does the GMO thing too, and water comes out of Canada into the United States through natural waterways. So it's coming from Canada all the way down the Mississippi into the Gulf of Mexico. This is a man-caused issue. I'm not sure what a solution would be. I don't know how much it would cost a farmer. And this is just me. If you're going to use GMO crops, then you should have to come up with some kind of system to capture your waste runoff and product from your land. Just that simple. Yeah, you're putting poison in the food. You're acting like you're doing something great for people, and you're not. You're lying to everybody, telling everybody the stuff is safe. It's not. It's not. It's been proven over and over and over and over again. And the courts, they want to, you have a company that has created fake science organizations to justify their science. They've invaded the academia world again and again and again. Cornell was just in the news again about bogus science reports coming out of their science department over this issue. So you have numerous academic educations that have been tainted with Monsanto science and purchased their professors. I mean, when you start talking MIT, Harvard, Stanford, trust me when I say Monsanto has tapped into the pecuniary greed element in the nature of the beast, and they know how to abuse it and use it. And they're doing a pretty good job of it. Look at the trouble we have. They bought almost every politician there is, and I guess Kid Rock isn't running. He just said it as a joke. Kid Rock, you should run, dude. You should run. I bet he beat Debbie Stabenow. I bet he would just smash that whole election right there and get elected. I bet he would. He wouldn't even have to bat an eye. I don't even think he'd have to sing a song. That's how upset people are with Debbie. Let me stab my constituents in the back. Stabbing now. It's a serious issue that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed in the scientific community on what we're doing. I really believe, again, the farming situation with this monoculture, let's grow all the corn here, let's grow all the cotton here, let's grow all the wheat here, let's grow all the soy here. That mentality's got to go. You had your shot. You made your $60 billion on this chemical. Okay, it's time to undo it. It's time to drain the swamp, as Mr. Trump is saying, and start going after these companies and start asking, whom do your elected officials represent, ladies and gentlemen? Look, elections are coming up, and I think I asked, when Hillary Clinton was in Reno, I asked, this was the question I asked: what will you do to give us a functioning Congress? And everybody looked at me like, with all the problems in the world, why would you ask that? Because I care about America. Screw the world. Whom do your elected officials represent, ladies and gentlemen? Whom do your elected officials represent? Are they there on the pecuniary greed ticket, filling their coffers so they leave Washington, D.C. as a millionaire, coming in a broke punk whatever? These politicians leave with a lot of money. They go to Washington, just a simple folk like me and you, and they leave with a lot of money. Why? Why? How can somebody... I'm sorry, you can work hard, you can invest your money and all kinds of stuff, but when you don't live in the district that you're elected to represent, because they don't have $4.9 million mansions, think about it, folks. Think about it. Whom do your elected officials represent? We are in this position because Monsanto has purchased the EPA, the FDA, the USDA, and half the Senate and 3/4 of Congress. There's not one person. It's when you start researching this and you start peeling the layers of the onion back, as they say, it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper, man. You start out with an onion about this big, and before you know it, it's bigger than you can. It's mind-boggling, the reach of this company and how deep they have got in our government, in our society, in everything, in academia, and what they're doing with the pollution. On the flip side of that, we the people cannot stop pushing back. Monsanto's taken a big hit. They took a $2.5 billion hit from Bayer in the last 6 months. And I think we need to keep the heat on, because the more lawsuits that come to Monsanto, the more that we can show that Monsanto is crooked, which we know they are, but the more we can push back and the more that we can show the less money Bayer is going to offer. And who knows, maybe we can raise enough hay, we can stir it up enough to where time is not on their side, and we can cave them in by keeping the pressure up with the lawsuits, with the conversation in social media and what's going on. Again, there are so many organizations out there that are on the anti-GMO thing. I really believe that if you guys coordinated and joined my campaign, baby, we could get something done. What is my campaign? My Twitter campaign, ladies and gentlemen. In closing today, what I'm talking about here, Carrie Gamble? No. Whitewash is the book. I'm drawing a serious blank this morning. But Carrie's book, Whitewash, really touches on what I'm saying, folks, on how the science has been manipulated on everything. Carrie Gillum, her book Whitewash, of course, folks, she's been investigating this for over 20 years. Excellent book. Excellent read. Very, very, very informative. And another drop-dead gorgeous non-GMO wanting in my food girl. What can you say? Check her book out. It is an excellent read. It very, very, very enlightening, to say the least. Links are in the description on this, ladies and gentlemen, on what you might be able to do. Of course, stuff for Nestle's, and we'll look at Nestle's a little bit. We'll start trying to do some little projects here and do a special report once a week on something going on in the GMO realm. Thomas Baldwin, how you doing there, dude? Give me some subject matter, dude. Where you been, man? I hope all's well in your corner of the world. Haven't heard from Thomas in a while. Thomas, of course, he is a GMO proponent, not so much about how it's being used, but he's kind of like me. He doesn't believe that the technology is bad technology, is being used wrong. So, very intelligent gentleman too, by the way. So if he does make comments down below, kind of pay attention, because he does know what he's talking about. He's a pretty sharp guy. If you like what you hear, folks, give us a thumbs up. They're telling me that's what it's all about. Mark Dice got 1 million subscribers. Subscribe to the station, folks. I don't know if I ever get 1 million. I'm not quite as funny and entertaining as that guy. He lives in Santa Monica too, so he's got the butt floss girls to help assist him going on down there. Unlike me, I got the deer and the antelope. Hey, if you can help out, hit the website, donate to the cause, folks. And tune in tomorrow for Weekend Wrap. Some crazy things going on in property preservation. Go figure that, huh? Crazy stuff in property preservation? No! Stop! You're kidding, right? No. No. Somebody asked a question, and I'm like blown away. Who handles all the mold remediation in Florida? Huh? What national do I get on with? Obviously, that moron knows nothing about mold remediation, or he wouldn't be asking that question. That was the entertainment of the day that was sent to me this morning. I had to kind of crack up about that. Again, if you like what you hear, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the station, folks. We got to get out of here. Got a little rain. Got the water season coming in. Hey. And remember, check out some of these articles. Check out this dead zone issue. You got a solution? Do you have something that could be a solution on maybe how we stop using so many chemicals, how we might be able to trap and recycle some of this stuff? Is there any way to do that? I don't know. It goes in the dirt and then it gets leached out. So I don't know. I don't know that there is a immediate solution. I know there would be a long-term solution, and that would be quit using all the chemicals and quit growing all the corn for the world in Kansas. Let's take these 6,000 acre farms and maybe, how about this? If you took 6,000 acre farm and you broke it down into 12 500 acre farms, each doing something different every year, and they each shared with each other, and they pushed everything out across the country. I don't know. You know, I mean, and I'm going to go back to this again. When I was a kid, we lived on a 1/4 acre of dirt that had the house on it. We used 1/8 of an acre for the yard and a farming. That's what we did. We grew everything in the backyard. Once a year, my dad would go buy a cow and a pig and stick them in the freezer. And we grew everything else. He'd go right up the street to Bentley's, where they had grass-fed beef, grass-fed pigs. Pigs eat anything, you know, they eat all kinds of stuff, but they weren't fed garbage. And it was good food. Every now and then he'd buy a buffalo too, so and they all eat grass. So, but we grew all of our food. We had canned goods for days. I mean, and then of course my dad, you know, because he had connections in California, he grew up in Cupertino on a ranch, so he knew all the farmers down there. He would always, you know, be when harvest season come, there'd be lugs of strawberries and apricots and peaches and pears, and they'd all get canned. We'd all put them up and make pies and canned stuff. So during the winter, we had fruit for breakfast with some toast and some milk. We had good breakfast. That's how it's done, folks. That's how it's done. We don't need a 1,000,000 acre farm producing all the soy for the world, because that is what's led us to the biggest issue is all the chemicals. You can't do that without chemicals, folks. And yeah, I really think we need to go back and maybe step back in time when it comes to agriculture and rethink what we're doing. What do you think? Do you think it's time we rethink what we're doing in the agriculture industry? Do you think it's time that we ask the president to get the bozos out of these agencies and actually put people in there that protect our food supply? Because it's not being protected, ladies and gentlemen. It's not being protected, ladies and gentlemen. In closing, I will ask you, I will ask Carrie, I will ask Ronnie Cummings, Zen Honeycutt, Vani Hari, Center for Food Safety, GM Watch, Food Tank, Food and Water. All you people have massive email lists, and you're all on Twitter. I see you on Twitter every day. Join my Twitter campaign, ladies and gentlemen. All you got to do is follow me. I'll follow you, and we'll ask the president, and we'll ask Mrs. Trump, and we'll ask Mr. Pruitt over there at the EPA, and we'll ask the FDA, and we will ask Sonny Perdue at the USDA, please get the poison out of our food. Let's have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. Let's all be safe out there.